Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Kedro Coffee Chat. I'm joined by Rashida and Mel, tech leads in the Kedro team. And today, Rashida will tell us about the road ahead for Kedro 1.0. So, before we start, let me quickly explain what this is. So, remember that Coffee Chat is a regular live stream that we do once every couple of weeks to connect with our audience and tell you about things that we've been doing lately or some features of Kedro that you might not know. In general, any technical thing that might be useful for you. So the first 20 minutes will be this presentation, and then we will leave some time at the end for you to ask any questions you might have. Remember, you can follow us on YouTube and LinkedIn, and that there's no such thing as a silly question. So please go ahead and ask any questions you might have. And it's not going to get to be the case today until the very end, but sometimes like demos fail. So send some positive energy to our presenters if that happens. And that's it from my side. So without further ado, Rashida, the floor is yours. And yeah, tell us what's brewing for Kedro 1.0.
Thanks, Wanlu. Hi, everyone. So, today we are diving into a very exciting topic for our coffee chat. What's on the roadmap for Kedro 1.0? But before we get into the what, let's talk about the why. So, Kedro 1.0 for us is not just another release, it is a result of years of listening, learning, and evolving alongside our users. This release, we believe, will mark a foundational shift in finally bringing the long awaited stability to Kedro's core. Also, in a world where Gen AI is rapidly reshaping the landscape and teams are feeling so overwhelmed by the constant wave of change, we think that this kind of solid, reliable foundation matters more than ever. With Kedro 1.0, our aim is to make our framework more polished, reliable, and extensible. Something that will give our users the confidence to move from experimentation to production without any friction. And once we have nailed that, we are hoping to unlock new and exciting opportunities for us to grow in, especially in the Kedro Gen AI space, where we think there's a real opportunity and we really want Kedro to thrive in that ecosystem. Now, before we get into Kedro 1.0, let's take a step back and reflect how far we have come. So, Carbon was the earliest version of Kedro. Now, it doesn't exist anymore, but it was a foundation for many of the features we have today, including pipeline and nodes. Then came Kernel AI, which was more of a project template with a few lightweight options. It wasn't quite a full framework just yet, but we could see that it was heading in that direction. And finally, with Kedro 14, we open sourced the project, defined it based on Kedro principles, which were inspired by the Zen of Python. And since then till today, Kedro has grown into a full framework with a vibrant and growing ecosystem. Kedro is at least 7 years old now. If you look at this slide, this is what Kedro looked like back when it was called Kernel AI. So you can see the project structure, how we abstracted, how different the Kedro Viz looked, and it's safe to say that we have come a long way since. Well, now it's time to make that history again with Kedro 1.0. So before we dive into the details, let's have a quick look at our main themes. So for Kedro 1.0, we are redesigning our data catalog. We are making it smarter, more flexible, and way easier to use. We are also making our deployments more robust across all kinds of environments, so you feel confident to take Kedro from local development to production. We've also deprecated our native experiment tracking and are now doubling down on Kedro MLflow as our go-to solution. We are also expanding our support for advanced versioning tools like Delta Lake, DVC, Apache Iceberg. We are doing some improvements for our runners, redefining the purpose of Kedro session and context, also cleaning up our public API surface to make it more intuitive, and giving our documentation a complete overhaul. Also, on the Kedro Wiz side, we're adding richer visual insights to understand pipeline executions and failures. Now let's deep dive into each of these themes. So first we have our data catalog, which will replace our current data catalog. Now we've been talking to our users who have really helped us redesign this, focusing on usability, performance, and a smoother developer experience. You'll now be able to work with the Kedro data catalog quite intuitively, and with its dict-like API, it behaves more like a Python dictionary. So things like lookups, iterations feel more natural. We have also added pretty printed outputs, so your catalog and dataset details show up cleanly in the console. You no longer have to scan through raw digs to make sense of things. Then we have a catalog to config method, which will let you convert your entire data catalog into a serializable format. Now, this will make it easier to store, modify, and share your catalog configurations across projects and teams. If you're working with large data catalog, we have also added searching and filtering. So you can now narrow down things just by typing in the dataset name or type. With improved CLI commands and lazy dataset resolution, you can also now list your datasets, find patterns, and resolve them dynamically, both through your CLI and your Kedro Data Catalog API. And this will ensure a very smooth, more efficient workflow when you're managing your datasets. Now we move towards our deployment enhancements. So we have been focusing a lot on improving Kedro's deployment story. One of the key areas we are currently working on is namespace validation, which we believe will add a layer of safety and structure to our deployments. We have made significant improvements in our deployment docs. We've added best practices, especially around node groupings, and made that content very easy to follow. We've also improved our deployment documentations with different plugins like Databricks. Now, since early this year, we are also making sure that all our deployment plugins work with the latest Kedro 19 and are also future ready for the Kedro 1.0. You can see from the table in my slide that it lists all the Kedro plugins that we have so far, and some of them are outdated until end of last year, which have now been updated. Then we have been working on namespace based node grouping, and we have already started work with Kedro Airflow, and we plan to do this across other plugins, but we believe that this will also make our deployments more efficient across plugins. Now our goal with all these deployment enhancements is to make sure that Kedro works just as well in production as it does in local dev, giving you the confidence to scale. Now let's look at versioning and experiment tracking. So you've probably heard by now, native experiment tracking in Kedrovis was deprecated in the last release. We are now focusing on Kedro MLflow as our recommended solution. MLflow is feature-rich and can be scaled across larger teams as compared to the native experiment tracking. Also, our Kedro MLflow plugin works great. We recently updated our docs and also did a coffee chat to walk through people how they can start it with Kedro ML Flow, and if they were already on the native experiment tracking, how they can migrate. So if you haven't already checked those out, please give them a look. Now, for versioning, we are sticking to our lean, simple versioning approach, but we understand that there are teams who would like to do more advanced versioning, and hence we have expanded support to integrate with Delta Lake, Apache Iceberg, and DVC for teams that need that flexibility. Now let's look at our runners. So we are solidifying our runner behavior, which includes finally addressing the long-standing issue with the parallel runner and also doing a big architectural refactor to decouple the runners from the data catalog. This will give the runners more modularity and flexibility going forward. We're also revisiting the purpose of Kedro session and Kedro context. So Kedro session played a big role in the native experiment tracking, but given that it was deprecated, we realized that these two classes require a bit of an identity shift. So we're looking at how we can simplify them and reshape them in a way that is useful for our users and also aligns with where Kedro is heading. Next, polish API surface. So this is one of those things that's not flashy but very important. We've been going through all our public and private APIs to clean things up. We want to make sure that our public API is intuitive and safe, and we want to reduce any chance of accidental misuse of our private APIs. We also want to improve our naming consistency across the board. While some of this cleanup might not be visible to everyone, it's still laying a groundwork for a stable, predictable AI that will be easier to maintain and easier to use in the long run. Finally, we are giving our documentations a proper makeover. We are migrating to Make Docs, which will give us a cleaner and more modern look. And beyond that, we are also recognizing the content, improving our information architecture so it's easier to navigate, and also adding guidance for both new users and our advanced ones. If you look at Kedro Vis, we are working on a run status visualization, which will give you insight on which nodes ran, how long they took. So, if you can identify bottlenecks, where your run is failing, or also give dataset sizes so you can debug wherever possible. And we believe this is going to be a super helpful feature to help you debug and performance tune your pipelines. So, some of this work has already been started. We have published our documentations in deployment and versioning already, and we have started releasing some of our Kedrovis features. And I wanted to demonstrate two of them to you. So, we're going to look at a flowchart orientation and notebook visualizer in a live demo now. So, let me show you. So this is our demo project, and this is the latest Kedro 11.0, where we introduced the flowchart orientation feature. And you can see that now in your Kedro Viz, you have this icon over here. When you hover over it, it says change orientation. So when you click on it, you can easily change your orientation from top bottom to left to right. We also released recently a very cool feature, my favorite, personal favorite, and it's called the Notebook Visualizer. So generally, users write their Kedro pipeline, then run them, and then visualize your results using Kedro Viz. If you try to run Kedro Viz when your pipeline is incomplete or half baked, most likely there are chances it will fail. Imagine how cool it would be if you could storyboard your pipeline before writing your full code, just like how you wireframe before you build an app. That's what Notebook Visualizer allows you to do. So over here, I have my Kedro project. I mean, I don't have a Kedro project, sorry. I just have a notebook where I've pip installed Kedro and Kedro Viz. And over here, I just create a dummy function. I import my pipeline node and I create a very simple node. So it's using my dummy function and just two strings. And I do like, I create a dummy pipeline with that node inside. Then what I do is I call from Kedrovis integrations notebook, my notebook visualizer, and I ask the notebook visualizer to visualize this pipeline. And let me run it. You can see it's visualized this pipeline for me. I didn't need a full-blown Kedro project. I can just work off functions and using pipeline and node, basically Kedro as a library. And let's say if I want to add more stuff to my pipeline. Uh, Sorry, why is it not? Yeah. Let's say I want to add more stuff to the pipeline, like another node, and add that node to the pipeline, and I run it again. So basically, you can mock your functions and sketch your pipeline right before you actually start writing the code. So this idea also came us from a team who were like drawing their Kedrovis on a whiteboard and were telling us how they started sketching before they building their pipeline. And we thought, why not give users the opportunity to do this from the notebook itself, where you do your experimentation and prototyping. So yeah, those were the two features I wanted to demo to you. Now let's go back to the most important part of the presentation. How can you get involved? So Kedro has been shaped by its users and we want your help to shape Kedro 1.0. So let us know what you think by filling out this survey. This we have a feedback survey, and you can scan it via the QR code on my screen. And this survey went out last week, and we still have one more week where we are asking people to fill it up before we start reviewing the results. Tell us if you are looking for something in 1.0, or if you have any ideas. We want to hear them. So that's the first thing. Please fill the Kedro 1.0 survey. The second thing is join us on Slack. On the user research channel, we are currently looking for early adopters and want to beta test some of our features. So our Kedro data catalog is actually already available on the experimental flag. So we want some early adopters to test it out and tell us how it is. So if you want early access and influence the shape of 1.0, this is your chance. And finally, follow us on GitHubs. As you can see, this is our current sprint. All our sprint boards, our milestones, our PR issues, everything is public. So you can literally see what we are working on at any point of time. Jump in, comment, submit, suggest ideas, and even contribute. So please do get involved. That's all from me. Over to you, Huanlu.
Thanks a lot, Rashida. Okay, so now we have a little bit of time for the audience to ask any questions. Thanks a lot for this presentation again. In the meanwhile, I wanted to ask you, what has been, in your opinion, the most interesting technical challenge up to the road here, or up to the moment that we're now?
There have been a lot of challenges, and I think coming up with a stable 1.0 has also been challenged, right? We have been looking at our code, we have been looking at what's core to us, what are the things we can let go. Like, I think one of the most difficult decisions was to deprecate things, right? Because that, we work so hard to build things, and deprecating experiment tracking was a big decision, but it was also the right decision. So there are so many moving parts of Ketro, and just making something core, something that will be stable, something that will be maintainable in the long run, has been an interesting challenge.
Great, thanks a lot for that. So let's leave a few more seconds for the viewers to ask any questions they might have. Okay, and Kita is asking us, when is the Kedro 1.0 planned for release?
Onlu, do you want to answer that?
Well, we can say that we're planning that for the first half of this year, so it's coming very, very soon. Thank you, Ankita. Anybody else? Okay, if not, we will leave it here. So thanks a lot, Rashida and Mel, for joining. Thanks everyone for listening. Remember to share this and subscribe for future videos. And we will see you next time.
Thank you. Bye. Oh, we have one more question.
Oh, okay, let's go. Just in time. Felipe asks, is there a migration guide to 1.0 like we had for previous versions? So I think the intention is to write one, right?
Yeah, maybe I can take that. There will be. We are, of course, still deep into development, so slowly we are adding pieces here. But right now it's mostly loose snippet. But you can expect a migration guide like we had before, probably even a bit more extensive, because we also know not all of our users have been able to keep up with all the major releases. But this is also something that we would love some input on, like how has upgrading been before, and if there's anything you would like to see for the 1.0, just let us know through the survey.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. Okay, and now for real, goodbye everyone, and we'll see you in the next edition of Coffee Chat.
Thank you.
Bye.